So have you ever come across a Persian or Oriental rug that you just fell in love with, but you're not really sure how to go about inspecting its condition or knowing what kind of quality rug it is? Well, maybe you really want to buy the rug, but you're just not feeling confident enough. Well, what if we could learn how the experts go about inspecting Persian or Oriental rugs to learn about its quality and how to check for its condition? Wouldn't that make you feel more confident next time you want to purchase a rug? Hi, I'm Sean with Catalina Rug, and in this video, I'm going to help you identify some of the key features that you can inspect in Persian and Oriental rugs to be able to better understand the condition that the rug is in and also what kind of quality rug it is. So for example, we'll be going over things such as the physical damage to the rug, how to inspect for that, as well as how to check for things like major repairs or color runs. Then we'll get into things like how to check the material of the rug and how to check the rug for straightness, as well as how to look at the symmetry of the rug and to check for continuity in its pattern. So my goal with this video is to help you be able to evaluate a rug so that way next time you find a rug that you love, you're able to make a more informed decision. So with that, let's get into it. Alright, so the first thing we're going to go over is physical damage to the rug. Now, physical damage could happen to both used rugs like pre-owned rugs as well as new rugs, although it's more likely to happen to used rugs. So there's a few different types of physical damage that we're checking for. So first of all, when it comes to the used rugs, we want to check for any sort of wear and tear on the rug as it is being used over time, as well as any sort of damage from pets, because pets could obviously get into the rug, maybe bite on the corners of the rug, things like that could damage the rug. And also stains and spills that can happen over time from usage of the rug, and especially if these were not addressed properly and have permanently stained the rug. Other types of physical damage that can take place, and this is including newer rugs, is any sort of damage from moth or any other pests that can eat away at the rug. So those are things that we want to look out for when it comes to physical damage. Now let's talk about how to inspect for physical damage. So when it comes to inspecting the rug for physical damage, the first thing is we want to get really close to the rug, which means that I recommend getting on your hands and knees and really just crawling on top of the rug to feel it and see it as closely as possible. So the first thing is we want to check the most common areas where physical damage can happen, which is going to be the four edges of the rug. So this is where you want to check the fringes of the rug and also the two edges on the left and right hand side of the rug. And what I recommend is just really running your hands across on the fringes and also just inspecting it really close as you're running your hands from one side of the fringes to the other. Also doing the same thing when it comes to the other edges of the rug, just running your hands across it and inspecting it with your eyes. And again, just being on top of the rug while you're doing this as close as you can. The next thing is you want to start checking the interior of the rug and really going over the pile and kind of crawling over it in a zigzag pattern and inspecting all of the pile, and again running your hands over it and checking for any sort of physical damage as you're going over the pile. Another thing you can do is flip the rug over and inspect the back of the rug, because if there's any major physical damage that has gone through the pile, it has gone through and it could be exposed from the back as well. So that's another way you could check for physical damage. So what you're checking for as you're doing this inspection is looking for any sort of holes, any sort of tears, or any sort of obvious damage from moth, which it looks like something has been eaten away at the rug, or of course any sort of stains that have happened to the rug. So as you're running your hands across and as you're visually inspecting, those are the things that you're checking for. Anything that looks out of place, that looks like damage to the rug. So the next thing we want to check for when it comes to the condition of the Persian or Oriental rug is to check for any sort of major repairs. So of course there could be many different types of repairs done to the rug, such as reknotting, patching, overcasting, stretching, and many other different types of repairs. But the major point here is that we want to find out if there's any sort of major repairs done that are obvious. We're not so worried about minor repairs that are done by experts that are not very visible, but we are worried about any sort of major repairs that are going to affect the longevity of the rug. Now, the process of inspecting the rug for major repairs is very similar to inspecting the rug for physical damage, Again, you want to get on your hands and knees and really crawl on top of the rug to be able to inspect the rug as close as possible. So the first place you want to inspect are, again, the fringes. You want to run your hands across the fringes and look for any sort of fringes that have been replaced, because if there has been damage done to the fringes, some serious damage, then there could be the possibility of the fringes being actually replaced. Another thing you want to check for is to go over the pile from, again, one end to another, kind of in a zigzag fashion, and check for any sort of patches, which will be more noticeable with like a different color or different texture from the rest of the rug. So that is something that is a pretty major repair. Also, you want to watch out for any sort of seams and stitching as you're inspecting the pile. Again, any sort of seams and stitching is an indication of a major repair. So the whole process you can do as you're checking the rug for physical damage. You could also pay close attention for any sort of major repairs, such as patches or seams, and also check the fringes of the rug for any sort of signs of replacement of the fringes. Also remember, as you're doing these inspections, to check the rug from the back as well, because the back is going to be pretty obvious to see any sort of stitching or seams or any sort of major repairs as well. Alright, so next let's focus on the colors of the rug and things that can happen to the colors, such as color bleeding and also fading. I also want to address some of the things that are naturally occurring with the rug, which are not actually a problem, such as abrash and things that can happen to the natural wool of the rug, which you might notice as you're doing the inspection. So the first thing is, when it comes to color bleeding, it can happen for a couple of different reasons, such as professional rug cleaning. So the rug could go through professional rug cleaning and come back with color runs. Also, it can happen from liquid damage, or let's say a liquid has been spilled on the rug but hasn't been properly cleaned up and addressed, and this could cause the colors of the rug to run. So that's something we want to inspect for and to look out for. And another thing we want to look out for is that there's excessive fading of the colors of the rug. So for example, this could happen if part of the rug was exposed to direct sunlight while most of the rug hasn't been exposed to the same sunlight. So this could cause overfading of one specific area of the rug, which can be a problem. So as you're doing this inspection for color runs and fading, something that you might notice is just variations of colors within the rug, which is pretty natural when it comes to hand-knotted rugs. And even nowadays, there's machine-made rugs that try to replicate this effect. So this effect or phenomenon is called abrash, which happens from the different batches of dyes that are being used to create the wool and dye the wool. So they create one batch and they dye the wool, and then they run out of the batch and they have to recreate it. And as perfect as they try to do it, there's still going to be some subtle differences in the color of the dyes that they create. Also, another thing that causes abrash is the different oil and fat in the wool that's being used, and the different type of wools that's being used over time. As the rug ages, this is going to show variations of colors. So another thing that can happen also is you're gonna see a lot of cream color Persian and Oriental rugs that have a little bit of variation in the cream background. And that variation is actually because there's natural wool that hasn't been dyed that's being used in the rug. And again, this natural wool over time is gonna start showing some variations of colors because of just the type of wool that it is. And there's no dyes that have been actually put on that wool, but just the colors have changed over time. So these are completely okay if they happen. This is part of the hand-knotted Persian and Oriental rugs. This is what gives them their beauty. This is what gives them their characteristics. And again, this is something that's replicated with the machine-made rugs, and even modern and new rugs that come from Pakistan that are hand-knotted. They try to create this abrash effect into the rug to give it that character and beauty. Alright, so next let's talk about inspecting the pile of the rug, and this is especially important if you're looking at a used rug or maybe a vintage or antique rug, and let's say you're planning to use this rug in a high traffic area. So the main thing here is that you want to inspect that there's no bare spots in the pile and that the pile is consistent throughout. because if the pile of the rug is very short, or let's say that it's been walked on one certain section or used in one certain section a lot, then it's going to start having a lower pile in that section, and then you're going to run into the chances of it getting damaged in that area, and it's going to be a problem if you're going to be using it in a high traffic area. So definitely as you're doing that inspection for physical damage and repair, and getting down on the rug and crawling on top of the rug and inspecting it, this is something else you could feel for with your hands and inspect with your eyes, is to check to see that the pile is consistent and there's no bare areas or areas of the pile that are too short. Now, if you're enjoying this video and want to learn more about Persian and Oriental rugs, then I invite you to like and subscribe and turn on your notification bell, because we put out videos just like this every week teaching you everything you need to know about Persian and Oriental rugs. Now next, let's talk about how to inspect the rug for straightness. Alright, so now let's go over how to inspect the rug for straightness, which is one of the most important aspects of the condition of a Persian and Oriental rug. And of course, here we need to keep in mind that these rugs are made by hand, and of course they're going to be only as straight as humanly possible. So let's go over how to do this inspection. So for this inspection, unlike the other type of inspections, we need to actually take a step back away from the rug and be able to look at the rug from a little bit of a distance. And what we're checking for is that the rug doesn't look crooked, or it doesn't look like one part of it is much wider than the other. So you want to visually inspect the bottom of the rug, the center of the rug, and also the top of the rug, and to visually see if this all looks pretty straight to you. And also, one of the things that really helps is that if the rug is sitting on top of hardwood floor or tiles, you could use the contours of the flooring to actually look and see if the rug follows the contours pretty straight. And another thing you can do to really inspect the straightness of the rug is to take a measure tape and measure, first of all, the bottom section of the rug, then the center, and then the top, and then to check the differences between these measurements. And here you want to check to see if the measurements are pretty similar to each other. An inch or two here and there, it's fine, but you don't want to see any major differences in the measurements you're making across the bottom, middle, and the top of the rug. So the last thing I like to go over with you when it comes to inspecting a Persian or Oriental rug is checking the rug for symmetry and continuity of its design. Now, these are not necessarily things that are wrong with the rug in terms of its condition, but if there is any sort of flaws in the design and how the rug was made, then you will notice that the rug is going to lack harmony because of its lack of symmetry or continuity in its design. So when it comes to inspecting the rug for symmetry, it really depends if the design of the rug is meant to be symmetrical, which is often the case for a majority of Persian and Oriental rugs. Now, when you're checking for symmetry, a few areas to really pay attention to is the location where the medallion is. You just want to make sure that the medallion of the rug is actually in the center of the rug. And also if it has any sort of corner pieces, or if there's anything between the medallion and the field, if those things are located symmetrically and the distances are correct. And of course, these are not going to be perfectly symmetrical because they're made by hand, but you want to just generally take a look at everything and see that everything is aligned properly and that they're mirroring each other. So when it comes to continuity of pattern, it really depends on the type of rug it is. So you can expect that rugs that are made in cities, traditional Persian rugs, for example, Tabriz rugs or Kashan rugs, you can expect these rugs to have a continuity of pattern. Now, when it comes to rugs that are made in tribes or nomadic rugs, there's less of a chance that they're going to always have this continuity of pattern. And you will especially notice this when you're looking at the four corners of the rug, within the borders of the rug where the pattern is taking a turn as it reaches the corner. This is where you can see continuity of pattern, and also you can see it in any edge of the rug where the pattern ends. So this is also something you could check for, and of course make sure that their expectations are based on what type of rug it is. So this concludes our video on how to inspect the condition of a Persian or Oriental rug. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and that the next time you come across a rug that you love, you will know how to better inspect this condition, so that way you feel more confident about your purchase. And if you want to learn more about Persian and Oriental rugs, then I invite you to check out our playlist about the different types of rugs, so that way you can understand their characteristics. Also, like and subscribe and comment below, and I will see you in the next video.